All right, this will be a homework help for lesson 12.5. And keeping in mind, you've done the flipped classroom video, and my pen is working so much better now. We're asked to find the vertex of this function. So the vertex formula is v equals negative b over 2a. Looking at this formula, it's in standard form. A is 1. B, there is no B. So B equals 0 and C equals 4. Well, we don't need the C. We need a negative B. So there is no B, so that's going to be 0 divided by 2 times A, which is 2. So anything divided, when 0 is divided by anything other than a 0, the answer is 0. Now, that's one of our ordered pairs, that's our x value. What will the y value be? Well, we substitute into the original formula that x is 0. So 0 squared is 0. So y is going to equal 4. And we had that correct. Now, the next slide is going to ask us for the axis of symmetry. Well, we said the axis of symmetry was whatever is in the x position of the vertex, which is 0. So our axis of symmetry is going to be x equals 0. Let's go on to the next part here. And we see the axis of symmetry is x equals 0. All right, let's go on. We'll clear this up a little. Now, here we're asked, what are the zeros? We're finding the zeros, the x-intercepts. Well, if we make a little graph here and plot our vertex, if you recall, it was 0, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Put a dot there. Dots now are very easy to make. And our a term here is a positive 1. So this parabola is going to look like so. Again, the axis of symmetry is x equals 0, which is actually the y-axis. And are there any x-intercepts here? Well, the answer is no, there are none. So that would be 0. All right, let's move on. Now, I went too far. They're asking us here to find 2 other points in this line so that we can plot the graph in our next slide. So as we make a t-chart here and we get our values, x, y, suppose we're going to choose a 1 and a negative 1. Now we already have our vertex, which we said was 0, 4, but we need some other points. So we're going to now substitute the 1 where x squared is. Well, 1 squared is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. And then if we put a negative 1 where the x squared is, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So there are our two additional values. Keeping that in mind, let's go to the next one. Now, in the video, I showed you how to grab a dot, and we're going to use our first 0, 4, which is our vertex. We grab the dot, move it up to 0, 4, which is, let me get my pen going so you see it better, right there. Then we just take the second point, and it's going to be a negative 1, 5, go over 1, up 1, and then put a dot there, and then the parabola forms. So there's one complete example, which is the pattern that you're going to follow to do all that are like this. Now, in some cases, the parabola might go through the x-axis, and they would ask you to find the zeros here. So that would be just solving that equation, that quadratic equation, when y is 0. Y is 0 right here. You want to find what your x values are. And you just use either the quadratic formula or factoring or just substitution. All right, let's go on. Now, this is another kind of problem, and we've had these before too, where you shoot an arrow or throw a ball up in the air, it's going to come down. So these are going to be, according to this formula, our A term is negative, so they're going to open up downwards. And this point right here would be the vertex, and that would be your maximum. So substituting these values now, we have our B is a 108. Our A, and we have to make that a negative because we're looking for a negative B over 2A. Now A is a negative 16. So a negative 16 times 2 is a negative 32. So this ends up being a negative divided by a negative makes it a positive. This is going to end up becoming 3.375, I believe. We have to round to 2 decimal places. So you go to the third decimal place. It's a 5, so you're going to drop the 5 and make that 7 and 8. And then that would be what T is. T is the vertex, and in this case, the maximum. But we still don't know how high that is. For that, we're going to need a y value. So we find a y value by going y equals negative 16. Now we know our t is going to be this, 3.38, that we're going to square, plus, now it's going to be 108, times t, 3.38. Now there is the protocol to get the answer. You just carefully put that into your calculator, and when you do so, they're going to give us what comes out of this, and we see it. It's going to be 169. Now, since they want you to round to 2 decimal places, 0.00. Now, if you put in there 169, they may count it wrong. But by rounding it to 2 decimal places, putting in the 2 decimal places, you get it correct. And that's how these are done, this one. Now, this next part, again, it's a formula for a parabola. We notice our A term here is going to equal a -1. So again, this parabola opens upward. We want to find the vertex. So that would be a -b over 2a. So our b value is 10, so a -10. Our a is a -1, so -1 times 2 is a -2. A negative divided by a negative makes this a plus, and this is going to equal 5. So our vertex for the x value is 5. Now we're going to take the 5, put it into this equation to find out what the y value is. And you would do that through substitution. So -5 squared plus 10 times 5 minus 28. So 5 squared is 25, but then it's negative. So a -25 plus 50 minus 28. Add these two together, you get a -53. Subtract positive 50, and you get a -3. So this is the vertex, which is a maximum. And if you draw that on a graph, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 3, 1, 2, 3. It's going to look like so. So would there be any zeros here? And the answer is no, because it doesn't reach the x-axis. And what is your axis of symmetry here? Again, we said it was the x value. That would be this line right here. X equals 5. And then they're going to ask for 2 points. Going to make a t-chart, substitute some values in there, and that'll give you the points for your graph. Okay. There's your axis of symmetry. And there are no zeros because the parabola doesn't reach the y-axis. Well, we'll just briefly review one more as we give you these homework helps. Here's our equation. Now notice that the a value is negative. So again, this is going to open up downwards with the vertex being the maximum. So let's just repeat it. V equals -b over 2a. Now your b is a +8, so -b would be a -8. A is a -2. -2 times 2 is a -4. Negative divided by a negative is positive. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So the x-coordinate of the vertex is 2, which is also your axis of symmetry. So what is your y value? Well, you're going to put a 2 into this formula. So let's do it through substitution. -2 times 2, the quantity squared, plus 8 times 2. I'm just substituting. Now, 2 squared is 4. -2 times 4 is -8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 minus 8 is 8. So our ordered pair here is 2 and an 8. And this person had it correct, and there it is. Now, how about finding the zeros? Well, I'm going to remember it's 2 and 8s, and it was A is negative, so it's going to go upwards. So let me just sketch that in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 8. So we're over 2, 1, 2. And the vertex, the maximum, is going to be there. So this is going to come down this way. So there are going to be zeros here. We need to solve this equation for the zeros. So once again, how do we do it? Well, we go negative 2x squared plus 8x equals 0. Y is 0. We're finding the zeros. So here we're going to factor out a negative 2x, and we get then x plus 4 equals 0. This has to be a negative 4, excuse me. Because when I factored out the negative, I had to reverse that sign. There you go. Now, we're going to solve each of these little equations here. That was the zero factor property. So we're going to equal this to 0, and this is equal to 0 already. Well, divide both sides by a negative 2 here. We get x equals 0, and here x is going to equal 4. But still, that's not ordered pairs. So this is the x value. We know the y is already 0. So this ordered pair is 0, 0. And this ordered pair is going to be 4, 0. These are your x-intercepts. So this line, let me erase that now that we know. And we can erase this one too. Just to show you, this is going to go through the origin here. Didn't do it very well. And this is going to go through 4. Just so you get an idea of what's going on here in the background. We have found the zeros. These are the x-intercepts. So when we go to the next stage here, and they ask us how many x-intercepts does the function have, well, we did a little picture here, and we said that there were 2. And then they asked us to actually find them, that is, solve that equation. If y is 0, what would be your coordinates? Well, there they are. We have found the zeros. And I'll erase that so you can see it a little bit better. The origin, and then 4, 0. And then they ask us to find 2 more points that are not x-intercepts, y-intercepts, or the vertex. It's not changing here. And I guess that's as far as they go on this one. Okay, well, again, hopefully this is helpful, and good luck with yours. Bring questions in to Math Lab.